Lady, are you sure you know where your husband is tonight?
We have a lady who doesn't, and you'll meet her later on...
People Are Funny.
Transcribed from Hollywood, John Goodell's production of People Are Funny, brought to you by Forever Yours and Milky Way Candy Bars. 2 quality bars made famous by Mars. And now here's radio's top master of ceremonies, Art Linkletter.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Hollywood and the People Are Funny show. I think we're going to have a very busy and I hope exciting half hour ahead of you. You're going to hear about the dog who will inherit $1,000 cash. And you kids and parents all over the country, you'll learn how to get Halloween masks for nothing. But right now, Roy Rowan, who's first to help us prove that people are funny in Hollywood?
Miss Carol Nerby from Pasadena, California. Meet Art Linkletter.
Hello, Miss Nerby.
How do you do?
As you know, Halloween Tricks and Treats will be with us soon, October 31st. Your trick on this program will be along in a minute, but right now, here's a treat. A big 24-bar box of that dark chocolate favorite, Forever Yours.
Thank you.
Now, you're a single girl,
Yes?
and your first name is?
Carol.
What do you do, Carol?
I'm an X-ray technician registered.
And you're very pretty blonde, and you've never been married.
No,
Uh-huh. There's no reason why you shouldn't if we found the right fella.
I don't think so.
Uh-huh. You're romantically inclined.
Why shouldn't
As a matter of fact, Miss Nerby, I must confess to something. Our first stunt tonight, we really need a married woman, and you're single, and would you pretend, just for the fun of it, pretend that you're married for the evening?
I will.
You will, all right. You go along with it. Okay, I now pronounce you a married woman. And what do you know, folks? Already, here is her first child. Would you bring it out, please? Just take him. He's a 6.5-month baby. Boy, is he a cutie pie? Say, don't things go fast on this show? She was a single girl a minute ago. Now she's married and has a baby. Take a look at him. Do you think he looks more like you or your husband?
Well, he doesn't have my brown eyes.
Yeah, and you don't know what your husband looks like, do you?
No, not now.
Well, it doesn't make any difference because, Mrs. Nerby, you don't have any husband now because he has just deserted you. You see, things do happen fast. A minute ago, she wasn't married. Now she's married, has a baby, and her husband's gone. And I'll tell you where he is. He's down at a Hollywood bus station getting ready to take a bus and desert you and your child. Are you properly confused?
I am.
You don't know what I'm driving at? Huh? I see a look of horror creeping into her eyes. Well, this is the truth, Miss Nerby. Here's the idea of the stunt. We're going to drive you, Mr. Irvin Atkins there, you and your new baby, down to a bus station, and he'll point out a man to you.
He will?
Now, you rush up to this stranger, and you accuse him of deserting you and your baby. I want you to make this dramatic and believable. Pretend I'm the husband. What would you say?
You scoundrel. How dare you run away and leave us alone?
That's pretty good, isn't it? She catches on real fast. Well, I tell you, you remember the landlady needs the rent? There's no milk for the baby in the house. Anything you can think of, don't worry about the stranger, because he's an actor that we've hired that Irv will point out. What we want to find out is the reactions of the people in the bus station. There are always maybe 30 or 40 people waiting. Will they take sides in a family squabble? People are funny about sticking their nose into other people's business.
Yes?
And kind of take note of what will they side with you or him and so forth, and it'll be kind of an interesting report when you get back, okay?
All right.
All right, on your way, Irv. Say goodbye to the poor deserted wife. You know how we're going to double-cross her? Oh, then you already know. I won't tell you. Wait till the end of the program and find out if you're right. Who's next, Roy?
Mr. Stanley Mitchell from Los Angeles. Meet Art Linkletter.
Howdy, Mr. Mitchell. You're Mr. Mitchell, a single man.
Yes, sir.
Well, to sweeten you up a little more, as a bachelor, here's a big box of 24 delicious Forever Yours candy bars.
Thank you.
Now, Stanley, what do you do for a living?
Take care of the mail.
Where?
Terminal Annex.
Here in Los Angeles?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And you're 40?
Right.
And never been married?
Yes, I have.
How many true friends do you think you could count on? It's something very few people have given a lot of thought to, but how many would you say?
Well, quite a few.
You have a lot of friends.
Quite a few.
Uh-huh. What's your definition of a true friend?
Oh, I would say one who would go to bat for you when you're in a tough spot.
Mm-hmm. Another definition would be a fellow who might loan you money when you need it without asking you why you have to have it or when he'll get it back. Wouldn't that be a definition of a true friend?
You're forcing me to say yes.
I would say so. A true friend would do that. You go up to him and say, Joe, I need $10 or whatever it is, and he gives it to you.
You're right.
All right. Now, do you think that you have a friend whom you could telephone this evening who would let you borrow $100 on a quick, unexplained notice?
I think so.
You think you have? Well, we're going to find out. People are funny about judging how many friends they have. There's a telephone over there on that table. It's an outside phone with a connection. We'll be able to hear both ends of the conversation. And if you can get one of your friends to promise to lend you $100 tonight, we're going to give you an all-expense-paid vacation at the Sahara Hotel in Las Vegas.
Wow.
Now, you've got a number in mind. You got some friend you know his number. Just lift up the receiver. He's really scratching his forehead there. And you just start dialing, and there are two rules. You can't tell him you're on People Are Funny. You can't tell him why you need it. You must do it in a minute and a half after you get him. After your friend...
I can't tell him why I need it?
No, you just say you need it badly. See? All right. Now, just start dialing. Lift it up and start dialing.
Hello?
Johnny?
Yes.
This is Stan.
Oh, how are you?
Pretty good. How are you?
Pretty good.
Say, I'm kind of a bad spot, but I need some money pretty bad. Can you let me have it for a day or so?
Listen, can you meet me down at Petco tonight?
Well, I just like to know, you know, I mean, it's quite a bit, but I just like to know. I need it pretty bad.
Yeah, well, how much?
I'll let you go.
Can you make it?
Well, where can I meet you?
Well,
Can I come by someplace tonight after... See, I'll be back about 9:30.
9:30? Well,
Come on, your place?
Could you let me know now? I gotta know right away.
Yeah, that's all
All right?
Yeah.
Okay. Listen,
Who was that fella?
That was John Goodman, a clerk, friend of mine.
A clerk down at the postal department?
No, he works out Hollywood
The
Station.
Hollywood station. How you like that? He even works in a different station. And you did it in how much time, John? 57 seconds. 57 seconds. And I tell you, kind of had your heart in your throat for a second. But when it came right down to the line, that boy delivered. And as a result of tonight's program, he'll probably get lots of calls from his friends. They know a good one now when they hear one. Well, Mr. Mitchell, you have a friend who trusts you, and you must be the kind of a fellow who merits it. And you win from Forever Yours an all-expense vacation at the luxurious Sahara Hotel in Las Vegas, and you'll be flown there on a 300-mile-an-hour TWA Transworld Airline Constellation. Have some fun, huh?
That's wonderful.
And besides that, because you have such a nice friend, we're going to send him from us an electric shaver and a Shavex, the amazing attachment that doubles the power of any electric shaver. Thanks from People Are Funny for proving that people are swell. Goodbye, Stanley.
And don't forget, always make yours forever yours.
Who's next, Roy Rowan?
Mrs. Lillian Peterson from Los Angeles. Meet Art Linkletter.
All right, Mrs. Peterson, you come on up here. What do you do as a job?
I work downtown at Bullock's.
Uh-huh. Now, Miss Peterson, to sweeten up those spooks that are going to come around next Halloween, we have a big box of Forever Yours bars from the Mars Candy Company for you. And you'll recall that you said you believe in female intuition?
Yes.
We think that people are funny about liking to tell of their narrow escapes. If anybody's ever escaped with their life in an interesting or unusual way, they're bound and determined to have everybody hear about it. And so you and I go down the audience, Mrs. Peterson. We're going down, walk up and down the aisles. We're going to talk to 3 or 4 people. And they're going to tell us their true stories of a narrow escape. But I must warn you that there is one person in the audience who is a phony, planted there by us, a liar. And he is not going to tell the truth. And Forever Yours will give you $200 worth of fine merchandise from the famous Spiegel catalog if you can tell us which one is lying after you've heard them all.
I'll try.
All right, let's see the hands of the people who'd like to tell us about their narrow escapes. Would you stand up, the lady right here in the coral suit? You are Mrs.
Haley.
And Mrs. Healy, supposing you just tell us in your own words where it happened and what happened.
Well, several years ago in Chicago, there were some new neighbors moved in who had built a very beautiful home in this residential district. And they moved in a few weeks before Halloween, and they had a housewarming Halloween night. And about 2 in the morning, I was awakened with dreadful yelling and screaming, and the neighborhood being quiet, it alarmed me. I got up and put on my house slippers and went to the front window, and there was the street just milling with men beating and banging each other. In the meantime, a neighbor evidently called the police, and the patrol came and took them off. And a little while, a flashlight flashed over my windows, where in between times, something I didn't know what it was went over my head, and I put my hand up, and my hair was full of glass. And these 2 men rang my doorbell, and they came to the door, and they said they were detectives. And they had noticed the hole in the glass, and they came and wanted to see if anybody was injured. And I told them that I was so surprised and scared I didn't know what to say. And one fellow looked down at me, and he said, "Boy, you'd been a cooked goose if you had shoes on. You have slippers on, and you were just below the bullet."
Now, you heard that story now, Mrs. Peterson. How do you do, sir?
I do.
Your name is?
Hal Keene,
Where are you from, Mr. Keene?
St. Louis, Missouri.
And what was the story of your narrow escape?
Well, a couple of years ago, I was wrestling professionally in a small town, or not too small town, Owensboro, Kentucky. And after my match, which I won, the people seemed to think that I was unfair in my tactics. And when the referee announced that I had won, it seemed like the whole arena arose and was just about to lynch me. And my opponent's still quite angry for something. I can't still to this day figure out what it was. Runs over, and he just hits me with all his might.
When you weren't looking?
Yes. And that's all I remember, that I was knocked out cold. But later on in the dressing room, I found out that if it hadn't been for the fact that he had knocked me out and they carried me on the stretcher, God only knows what might have happened to me with all those people who seemed to claim that I was wrong.
In other words, they were getting ready to form a lynch mob for you.
Yes, that's right.
Sounds interesting, doesn't
Well, I don't know too much about wrestling.
it? Our next guest is Mr.
Falk.
Where are you from, Mr. Falk?
Well, originally Chicago.
All right. What was your narrow escape?
Well, last year, my 25th anniversary, I almost forgot it. It was on November 11th. So, in the last minute, I thought, well, I better get some silverware because it's my silver anniversary. So I went to the bank to get the money. And just as they handed me the money, I heard some the alarms and some bullets going. So I run for the door, and the bullet crashed the door above my head.
Was a bank holdup?
Mm-hmm.
Did you got out all right?
Yeah.
And didn't get hit?
No.
All right, there's 2 bullet stories. This was a bank holdup. The other one was a neighborhood brawl. Thank you very much, sir. We have one more guest, a lady. That makes 2 ladies and 2 men. Now, remember, one of these is a liar. One of these is a liar because we put him here, or her, and she or he was to tell one fact in this story which would tip you off. You are Mrs.?
Mrs. Howard Rusted
From where?
from Los Angeles now.
Mrs. Rusted, what happened to you?
Well, when I was about 3, we moved near, not too far from a railroad track. And one night, my sister got scared. She was dreaming, and she tried to throw me out the upstairs window. And if the screen hadn't been there, I would have toppled out. But I yelled so when I hit the floor, she woke up.
How old were you? 3?
About 3.
How old was she?
Well, I wouldn't say. She was much older than I. She was
in other words,
about 14 years old.
And it was a nightmare, and she was in her sleep, taking you to the window to throw you out.
Mhm.
Well, that's an exciting story, and it was a long time ago, wasn't it?
A long time ago.
Uh-huh. Well, now, Mrs. Peterson, you've been looking at all of these guests, and you can just glance around. Here they all stand. You can judge of their honesty of their expression, their delivery. There is one thing which is not true about the story. And remember, if you tell me in the first guess who is the phony in this little stunt to prove that people are phony, you'll get the $200 worth of choice merchandise from the famous Spiegel catalog, and Spiegel has satisfied thousands of customers for 88 years. Mrs. Peterson, who are you picking?
There's a man who has a suspicious look on his face. If I judge from that way,
In
yes.
other words, the wrestler
Yes.
looks suspicious to you.
Yes.
Now, there's nothing about his story particularly, because you don't know anything about wrestling.
I know nothing whatsoever.
But your
about
intuition
that.
tells you that there's something sneaky about him.
Yes, definitely. The way his eyes and the general contour of his face and so on.
You know, this is very interesting because this happens in police lineups and things all the time where people identify suspicious-looking people, and often they are accused of crimes. And believe me, you have very good intuition most of the time, but not this time. He's a perfectly okay guy.
Is that right?
So I'm sorry you're wrong. Now, I'm going to have to drop the prize to $100 and give you a second guess. Now, you know that he told the truth. Now, if you had been listening carefully and looking carefully, I think you could have told. You want to take a second guess?
Well, I assure you it will be a guess at random this time, definitely.
Yes.
I have no idea now.
You haven't? Uh-huh. Well, what are you going to guess?
Well, I'll just guess this man then.
This man here.
Mm-hmm.
For any special reason?
No, just because I'm going to guess now.
In other words, you seem to think that the men are more apt to be liars than the women.
Well,
You've been married.
I am.
Oh, yes. Well, that explains everything. You still are married.
Yes, I
Uh-huh.
am.
Well, I tell you, you're feeling that the men are more liable to tell lies than the women.
No, they aren't. Women are bigger prevaricators than men.
Oh, you think so?
Oh, yes, definitely women are.
Yes, but not tonight.
No, not tonight.
Well, you have hit it right. Your guess was right. The second time, this man, who doesn't look sneaky at all, did tell the lie, and I will tell you what it was that should have tipped you off. It was the 25th wedding anniversary that he went to the bank, and it was November 11th. Now, what is November 11th?
Armistice.
Armistice Day. And what happens to the banks on Armistice
They're
Day?
closed.
That's right. Oh, that's right. And we want to thank you other guests who told us the true stories of your narrow escapes. We'd like to have each of you have a sparkling chrome Mirror-Matic coffee maker. And thanks from Forever Yours for proving you can't be too careful when you judge people. Thank you.
And don't forget, always make yours forever yours.
2 weeks ago, a little pup from the Los Angeles City Pound had his life saved because he was adopted by a member of our studio audience a few hours before he was doomed to extinction. Now, strangely enough, on this program of all places, it turned out that this little dog had $1,000 in cash in the bank. And he had a little note around his neck, said he wanted to give it to some other homeless dog in a pound somewhere in the United States. Now, last week, we picked a man at random out of our studio audience to find the missing dog. We discovered he was a Reserve Air Force officer whose hometown was Salt Lake City, Utah. We sent him back to his hometown on a TWA 300-mile-an-hour Transworld Airline Constellation, where he was to interview people who had adopted dogs during the preceding week and to award $1,000 in cash to the dog of his choice. Now, he was supposed to be back here in Hollywood tonight. He didn't make it. We've had him on the telephone line, I think, for the last couple of minutes. John, is that right? Bring out the phone, and this is a regular phone. You take the microphone, John, and I'll chat with him.
Hello.
Hello?
Richard Kaiser.
Yes, this is Dick.
I thought we had lost you.
No, I'm still here.
You're in Salt Lake?
Yes.
And you were supposed to be back here this week. And I know, of course, that you were delayed in getting away due to your own personal problems. But what happened?
Well, this is more of a job than I figured. They're kind of hard to judge a dog, especially when there's that much money involved.
Well, what do you do now? You've got a list of the dogs adopted from the pound.
That's right.
Now, you're visiting these homes.
Yes, I am. I have a list of things I look for in the dogs.
Like what?
Well, general appearance, their alertness. Does he learn tricks easily? Does he understand what is wanted? And friendliness. Does he come rushing up, wagging his tail? And is he a good protector? Does he watch the property, or does he watch the young children that are out playing? And then I sort of play with the dog a little and look him over, give him a general checking.
By the way, I did want to ask you, this is your old hometown, and you're single, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Are you looking up any old girlfriends?
Oh, yes, I certainly am. I wish I was out judging the young ladies.
Stick to the dogs.
Well, I will.
You can see the girls on your own time. And Dick, we'll see you back here in Hollywood next Tuesday with a full report and with the dog and with the person who adopted the dog from the pound, and we'll award the $1,000 then.
Okay, fine.
Goodbye, Dick.
Goodbye.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. A young fella's up there in Salt Lake having the time of his life at our expense, and somebody's going to get $1,000 because they were nice enough and kind enough to get a little dog from a pound. We'll find out next week who it is when Mr. Kaiser brings the dog and the master back to Hollywood. Now, we had a stunt that started a few minutes ago that was one of the most exciting stunts as far as possibilities are concerned that we've done for a long time. We sent a single girl out, pretending that she was married with a 6.5-month-old baby boy in her arms, to go to a Hollywood bus station and accuse a strange man of trying to desert her and their baby. She's back. Let's find out what happened and what was the double cross. Here she comes, Miss Nervy, a very sweet gal from Canada originally. How do you like being a married lady?
Oh, just wonderful.
Yeah, I'll bet. You had to go up to a bus station tonight, and Mr. Atkins pointed out a fella, didn't he?
He certainly did.
What did you do, or what did he do when you went up and yelled about the desertion?
He denied it. He said, no, he wasn't married to me. He said, you must have the wrong lady.
The wrong what?
The husband. He said, lady, he said, you must have the wrong husband. I said, no, indeed, I haven't the wrong husband. Where are you going?
And did he try to get away from you?
Certainly he did. He sat there and tried to argue for a few minutes. And then I said, well, where do you think you're going? He said, I'm going to San Diego.
San Diego? What kind of a looking fellow was he?
Well, my husband is 6'2". He weighs 160 pounds.
Well, you said
Dog
that?
house.
This is what he looked like.
Yes.
And well, did he, what did the rest of the people around the place do?
Well, at first when I went in there, the people were hypnotized.
You mean by this suddenly being an eyewitness to such a personal drama?
That's right.
Did you get the proper inflection in your voice?
Oh, yes. And then they were standing there, and before we left, the people were just standing there looking, their eyes popping out of their heads.
Did anybody do anything or say anything?
Then we went over to the ticket office, and the man said, when he told me that the bus was leaving at 6:55, I said, well, he can't go on that one. That's only 10 minutes. He said, we got to talk this over.
Yeah.
So then he says, no. He says, I can't do that. So then he started edging away, and I kept going with him.
Well, the baby in your arms, where was he edging toward?
He was going to the men's room.
Did he get away from you, I mean?
And actually, when he went in there, I stood there for a few minutes, and then I came away.
Did anybody take your side, or any?
And when I came out, these three women rushed up, and one says, well, she ought to know her own husband. What's the matter with him then?
Yeah.
Where does he think he's going? Call the police.
These women, they were sticking their nose into the
Oh,
earth.
yes.
But no man at the station volunteered to say anything.
Oh, there was one sailor there, and he was really giving the man the eye.
But he didn't say anything.
No, he just was standing there looking.
Well, now, this is interesting to us because this is a bona fide experiment, and the women were the only ones who volunteered to call the police or do something drastic about it.
Well, there were 2 or 3 men there, but they were just sort of looking. They were maybe skeptical. I don't know.
Well, did you, Mr. Atkins, did you notice anything?
All I can say is when he steps out of that men's room, 3 old ladies are going to lynch him, Art.
3 old ladies. Well, now, didn't you feel a little sorry for the poor guy who was acting the part of your erring husband?
Oh, yes.
As a matter of fact, you should feel sorry because you know this program, don't you?
Oh, yes.
He was no more actor than you are. He was a perfectly innocent guy that Irv pointed out.
Oh,
This guy was a stranger. We just picked him out, and he's probably going to come out of the men's room along about Christmas. Isn't that awful?
no.
Well, now you know exactly what will happen in a bus station if this ever occurs to you. But
I certainly will.
I'm sure the man you get will be too smart to ever leave you. Well, mistakes will happen, and because Irv did this dirty trick on you, I didn't want him to, but he did. It was his idea. We want you to have a beautiful Tappan gas range with exclusive Tappan features because good foods just happen when you're cooking on a Tappan. Can you cook?
I certainly can.
And you now got a tap, and I'll bet you'll be married in a week. Goodbye, and thanks for People Are Funny. Well, I guess that's about it for tonight. If you live in Southern California, or if you're going to come out here for a visit, and you'd like to see People Are Funny, you can write to CBS Hollywood for tickets. Now, this is Art Linkletter saying goodbye from Hollywood, and reminding you it'll be a trick to treat this Halloween with Forever Yours and Milky Ways. Goodbye, everybody. See you next week.
This program was transcribed from Hollywood.